Any task where you slow down and you just take your time will ultimately help you relax. What can I do that will help me deal with my anxiety? I've never tried cooking before, and I just said, why not give it a shot? The only person that could help me is myself. As a kid, I was just a ray of sunshine. I was extremely bubbly and extroverted and very positive. And also really silly. I remember when I was 6 years old, I went through this phase where any table that I saw at an event, like a birthday party, I would stand up on it and I would take my shirt off and I'd whip it around in the air and I'd say, I'm a superstar. Although I was fun and bubbly when I was younger, I feel like as I grew older and progressed into elementary school, my personality started to change a bit. I started experiencing new feelings of confusion and stress that I'd never had before. I had undiagnosed ADHD, so I was failing in math and science, and I didn't know why, because I was trying my best and working really hard. I started to get stressed out, and I started doubting myself at 10 years old, to the point where I thought I was stupid. My parents and I both agreed that it would be best to try out boarding school in a different country that has better resources for students that learn differently. In boarding school, I just felt so isolated. My family wasn't there. I had no friends. Who am I supposed to talk to? I don't want to talk to a stranger about all of these personal issues that I'm having. So many things that I had to understand and cope with at once, and it became really overwhelming. The way that I decided to cope with those feelings of stress was by pulling out my hair to the point where a bald spot developed in the middle of my head. I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I felt so isolated and so alone. So I was just trying to figure it out by myself, which was extremely frustrating and confusing. That went on for a year. Eventually, I called my parents up and told them everything. They helped me find a therapist, an expert who could help me understand what these feelings are and give me a word to associate all of those feelings with, which is anxiety.
In my mind, it's an immediate state of fear or paralysis that something bad is going to happen. It could be any range of physical manifestations of this experience, and it's different for everybody. And one of the key elements in treating anxiety is to have a person identify, where do you feel the anxiety in your body? Where does it begin? Because what we want to be able to do is identify the trigger, right? So is it the car coming towards you? Is it hearing a song on the radio that reminds you of something? Is it watching the news? Is it looking at your social media? What's the trigger? And that's why understanding where we feel it in our bodies is one of the most important cues for then addressing it, because all of our triggers are going to be different. How we feel it and how we experience it is going to be different. How we decide to cope with it is going to be different.
To combat anxiety at the time, I started knitting, reading books, doing tasks that helped me focus on one thing at a time. I was doing really well with being able to handle my stress levels and anxiety up until the beginning of the pandemic. During March of 2021, I got COVID. I had to isolate at the time for a month by myself. That experience completely triggered my anxiety from when I was in boarding school. I was alone, and I had no one there to help me. It also elevated my anxiety to another level that I had never experienced before. I started getting panic attacks for the first time ever. And I just remember, I remember sitting there just wanting my family to be there with me, to comfort me.
As human beings, we are social creatures. We need attachment to other humans in order to get like that balance of chemicals in our brain, serotonin, dopamine, just all the yummy, warm, good feelings, laughing and talking. And when that's taken away, we deteriorate, right? Our mind doesn't work as well. We're not thinking, we're not talking, we're not stimulated in any meaningful way.
The next day, I looked over that whole experience that I had, and I said to myself, you know what? This is the lowest point that you've ever been in your entire life, and you just need to accept that fact and be open to trying out new things that will help you. I decided to try cooking because in my apartment, I didn't have a lot of options for tasks that I could do. I needed to do something else that could also have a positive impact on my mental and physical well-being. I had never cooked anything in my entire life before that moment. But then I just figured it out. I said, okay, just make the most basic meal ever. And it's a great way to ease into cooking. Once I cooked my first meal, yeah, it didn't look great, but it tasted amazing and it was so rewarding. As I continued to cook, it became this outlet that helped me relax and ease my mind whenever I'm feeling stressed or anxious. Slowing down while cooking was the main factor that helped me relax during that whole experience. When I first started dating my boyfriend, he took me up to his farm and I met his dad, Jamie, who is a chef. Every time I would go to their house, I would take that opportunity to ask Jamie questions about his process of cooking.
Anything that you can do that engages you, that takes time, is good for your mental state. It lets you be engaged in something rather than free-falling, right? When you slow down and you get involved in the process of cooking, that's when you start to understand deliciousness. You've taken the time to give it the time that it needs. Food and food preparation can't be rushed. You're always going to be faced with spending time. It's okay. You're not wasting time by spending time. You're just involved in a process, and you're giving it the importance that perhaps it deserves. I think it's about reorganizing your day, really, to look at prioritizing food as something that, and sharing food, and maybe even sharing the cooking and sharing that whole experience of working towards putting a meal on the table is joyful.
Being able to make food for myself and take that time to just relax and cut all the vegetables up and saute it in a pan. You know, it activates all of your senses, your taste, your smell, your touch. And it really is an incredible experience. I was just totally in the zone, cooking and enjoying every second of it, rather than thinking about all of the worries that I had going on in my mind.
I think cooking is amazing. The transformations always blow my mind. Finding the uniqueness and the beauty in things in the food world continues to amaze me and capture my imagination and keep me engaged. The act of sharing food contributes to well-being, a sense of well-being. You know, you can do it by yourself, but then the ultimate sharing is happening at the table. The reaction that engenders in the people that you're sharing with, it's all very positive.
At first, I only saw cooking as an outlet to help me cope with my feelings of stress and anxiety. But after a while, I also realized that I can share all of this delicious food that I made with the people that I love, which is something that is so important to me. This is such a wonderful way to connect with other people. There are so many wonderful memories that happen around the dinner table. I bet anyone could think of a fun memory that has happened around food. Cooking shaped me into the person that I am today. It helped me get through some of the darkest moments in my life, and I was able to overcome a lot of obstacles through cooking and become stronger than I have ever felt before. I'm at a point where I'm just so happy and I'm myself again. Like, I am that little girl dancing on the table.